going to work or talk about the first concept, which is get pivot data or get pivot data. How to do that? Let's say I'm interested in getting the data for the month of Jan. All I need is to get the data for month of January in here. Okay. So how to do that? Equal to, okay, we don't have to write the entire formula, just the equal to sign. And if I select January there, okay, and hit the enter key, you can see how it has brought me the data for the month of Jan. Now, let's say I want data for all the months to be fetched and displayed down here. Okay, beginning with January, I want data for all the months to be displayed down here. Now, what I will do is simply hold this handle and drag it down. So when you're dealing with months, Excel is intelligent enough to automatically fill in the series. You see how it has managed to fill in the series. Okay. So for all of these months, I would like to look at the sales data, whatever is the sales. So how do we do it? We can put the equal to sign. Just go up to the value and select the value directly. The moment I select the value, you will notice how Excel has automatically populated the formula. It is getting the pivot data for sales, which is beginning in cell A3. And it is getting data for which date? 1. 1 means Jan. Okay, Jan is the first month, right? So 1. All right. And once I hit the enter key, you can notice how data from here has been brought over here. However, if I copy it down, okay, when I do a double click and try to copy it down, the same value is getting copied down throughout the remaining months. So this is not what I expect. I want to get the data for each month in there. All right. So why is it copying down the data for Jan? That is because here date is hard-coded. We are referring to the first month. So it is getting hard-coded and giving you that value everywhere. So instead, I will remove that. Okay, I will remove 1. And if I say, no, bring me the data for this month, which is in this cell. All right. And we will leave it as relative referencing. Why? Because when it moves down to Feb, we want this to change. When it moves down to March, we want this to change and get updated to D20. If it's May, it should go to D22. April would be 20. May would be D22. June would be 23, so on and so forth, right? So I will just hit the enter key. I hope you all understood this. Now, if I do a double click and copy it down, you can notice how the values have matched. Okay, whatever we have here, we managed to bring them outside the pivot table also. So this was the data in the pivot table, and I managed to get all that data outside the pivot table over here. Now I'll make a small change just to redo the example so that you can understand it better. Now what I will do here is I am going to include product. Let me bring product to the columns shelf. Okay, so now that I brought the data to the columns shelf, I will close this pivot fields window. I don't need it anymore. Little bit of formatting needs to be done over here, right? So let me go to this column and format it. I will go up here and make it a currency. And I'm going to use US dollar and reduce. Now, when you apply formatting from the home ribbon, okay, from the home ribbon, when we go to this section and apply formatting, it gets applied to the cells. These cells, it's getting applied to the cells. Okay, it's not getting applied to the field. So I will undo this step. I'm going to do a Command Z or Control Z to undo that step. Okay, instead of applying the formatting from the home ribbon, when the data is in a pivot table, okay, if you apply the formatting by going here to this option, value field settings. So what am I doing is a right click in the cell which is containing the sales value, and I will choose the option value field settings, which is on the context menu. Now, when I go and click here, we know that we will get this window from where we can click on the number or number format option, then change the formatting. We can apply the formatting. We can say that this is currency, whether or not to show the decimal places, format it, and how would you want to represent negative values. All this we can do, and click on OK. Now you will notice how across the table, across the pivot table, wherever sales is being represented, it got formatted. So that is the difference between formatting from the home ribbon and formatting from inside the pivot table using the value field settings. These two are different. Okay, these two are different. Okay. Now, we were practicing the concept of get pivot data, how we can bring some data from inside the pivot table and show it separately if necessary. Okay, separately if necessary. So over here, this is my table, which is pretty big. I will, let's say I want to bring the data for all the months. Okay, so I'm just going to type in Jan. And we know that the autocomplete feature will fill in the series of months when we click and drag. Okay, up to December. So I have the list of months over here. Now I would like to look at the sales data for the product which is selected by the user. So let's say the user is going to select a product, and based on that, we have to show the sales across different months for the product that is chosen. Okay, for the product that is selected by the user. And they will enter the name of the product here. Let's say green tea. Okay, suppose the user would like to see the data only for green tea, or we need to take the data only for green tea. How to do that? I will just put the equal to sign in here, open the bracket, or not even necessary, just put the equal to sign and go and select the value, the sales of green tea from the month of Jan, which is over here in this cell. Once I click on it, you can notice how Excel has written the formula. Okay, it has written the formula. You can look at it up here on the formula bar. So we are bringing the sales information. Our data is starting from the cell A3. And now you can see hard coding. For which date are we bringing it? For the first month. And for which product are we bringing it? For green tea. Okay, once I hit enter, the value will come. Okay, the value has come. So this is the sales of green tea from the month of Jan up here. But I need to copy it down so that I get the information for all the months. You can see it is copying down the same value. This is basically the result of hard coding, which is happening in the formula, right? So instead of 1, what to do? Like we did earlier, instead of the number 1, I will point it to this cell that is holding the name of the month. So I'll point it to Jan. And this month Jan is in A19 cell, and it has to be relative referencing because when we move down to the next month, it is supposed to get updated. A20, A21, A22, so on. So I'm happy with that. Now, when we come to product, you can see that green tea is hard coded over here. So I will reference this to this cell. Okay, I will reference it to this cell because the user is going to enter the name of the product down here, right? In this cell. So I'm referencing that cell. Now, should this be relative or should this be absolute? For month, we wanted relative referencing because it has to reference the next month and then the next, then the next. But for product, it has to at any given point of time reference the name of the product that is typed in here or selected in here or provided in here, right? So we need to lock this cell. So to lock this cell, I am here on D20. I will simply use the F4 function key. What does the F4 function key do? It will convert relative referencing into absolute referencing. By now, you are all, I'm sure, familiar with relative and absolute referencing. So now when I hit enter and then copy down the formula, you can see how the values got updated. This is the data for green tea. All right, across different months. From here, it brought the data from here. And you can see the values cross-check with this. All right. Now, what if the product changes? Let's say they change it to mint. Accordingly, the numbers have changed. Data from Mint for the sales of Mint have come here. Now let's make it a little more easier for end users to select what they might want. How? By providing a validation list. So what I'll do is go up to the formulas, the data ribbon. And over here is the icon for creating data validation list. Okay, so I'll go there, select the first option for data validation. What I need to create is a list, and the list is supposed to contain what values? That is what we need to give here. So I'll just close this so that I can access the information in the chart, in the pivot table. This is what I want in the list, okay, up to regular espresso. And then I can expand it by clicking here and click on the OK button. All right. So now the user can choose a product of their choice from this list. So depending on what they choose, accordingly, the data is getting updated. You can see these values have come here. Okay. If I go there and choose some other product, data from that product is coming here, Mocha. Okay, so that is about get pivot data. We have the lookup functions, we have the index and the match function, all those also you can try it out. But when you're specifically working with pivot data, with a pivot table, you can use the get pivot data feature. You can use the get pivot data function to pull back the data that is required for your analysis or the data on which you might want to focus.